Hello, athletes and fans of bodybuilding. Indy with the Mr. Olympia. Today we have Carlos Thomas Jr., possibly the biggest sensation in bodybuilding, and the anticipation for this guy to compete is humongous. He's got tremendous leg, huge development, the small waist, the genetics, everything is there for Carlos Thomas Jr. Carlos, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm doing well as you could do, about 3.5 weeks out. So,
Woo.
yeah.
My audio here might not be working. Hold on 1 second. Can you guys hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yes, you were perfect. You were perfect.
Okay. And also with us, she's 8-time Miss Olympia, the one and only Linda Murray. How are you, Linda?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you very much, Tarek. Thank you, Carlos, for joining.
Yes.
And also with us, the voice of bodybuilding. He is the master of ceremony for the Mr. Olympia. He's the 2000 Mr. USA, Bob Ciccarello. How are you, Bob?
What's up, Tarek? Linda, always a pleasure. And Carlos, 3 weeks, buddy. Hang in there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, Carlos, my first question to you is, first, congratulations. We've been seeing pictures of you. It looks like you've done tremendous progress. I talked to you in New York last year, the New York Pro, and you seem to be very focused. Your dad said, Tarek, his mind is on the right place. I love how supportive and how knowledgeable your dad is about bodybuilding. But it looks like this Arnold Classic is the crossroads for you, right? It looks like we're about to see who really Carlos Thomas Jr. will be in the pro ranks. Is that how you're feeling?
It's a wonderful opportunity. I wouldn't have it any other way to be, stacked against such a prestigious lineup. We have three Mr. Olympias in there. Obviously the current Mr. Olympia is Samson, and then you have the previous Derek, and then you have Brandon Curry, and then we have Arnold Classic winners in there, and 212 champs, and multiple show winners, veterans. It's an amazing lineup, and to really be able to step up there and put myself against these guys and to serve some notice and let people know, like, hey, I'm going to be one of these top guys in the years to come. It's a great opportunity, and I feel like I'm ready for it. I feel like we've done the work, and in 3 weeks it's time to show it off.
Isabel Terrell here. She says Carlos has a wicked physique. I would agree with that. Dan Murphy, does Linda even age? No, Dan, she doesn't.
Oh, I love you, Dan. Thank you.
Nope.
Yeah. Linda, you before the live, you were breaking down his physique. You said, Eric, I love his physique. I love this. I love that. But he needs to improve this. He needs to improve that. Break down Carlos Thomas Jr. from your standpoint.
Yeah, it was great looking at all of his pictures on NPC News and where he started in 2014. And my first thought was, my God, I'm trying to find, as far as like body parts, like what's missing. I mean, great, amazing biceps, the waist, chest from the side. Your quads and hamstrings and the side chest are just really amazing. What I see is that you just need to be a little bit tighter, I think. I just very well balanced. I know in 23 you competed at the Texas Pro, and you competed against two heavy hitters, Andrew Jack and Hunter Labrada. So that right there, that says a lot. I just think it's just a matter of just being just a little bit tighter and getting that experience from every time you diet down. And I see the amount of muscle that you put on. I looked at that first picture of you in 2014. I know that was 10 years ago, but it's just, you've been doing the work.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Bob, look at that. As Linda said, he's put on a lot of muscle. And let's not forget here, Carlos is a national champion. He won the nationals which is, along with the USA's, the two most prestigious amateur bodybuilding shows. You won it in 2021, right, Carlos?
Correct. Yes, sir.
And Bob, you remember him in Texas? He came in third place after Hunter and Andrew Jack. What's your expectation for Carlos at the Arnold?
Well, sky's the limit for Carlos. He knows that, and that was very good company that he was competing against in a probably the best ever Andrew Jack we've seen was at that Texas show. He didn't even achieve that at the Olympia, or he would have been fighting into that top 3 and 4. And Hunter is certainly no slouch, established himself, and he's been as high as 4th place himself at the Olympia. So Carlos held his own with those guys, and people got to remember that was only what was that your first pro show, Carlos, or your second?
That was my pro debut. Yes.
Yeah, that was your debut. That's right. You were supposed to do New York, and you couldn't, and you'd end up not going in that. But for a pro debut, I mean, that's spectacular. Carlos has all the attributes. He's got all the muscle in the world, great proportions, symmetry, shape, all that. It's only a matter of conditioning at this point. And that's something that is very achievable, but it also comes with experience and taking it through to getting on stage. You can see from this progression right here from his early days getting in there, the legs are always there. It's just one of those natural body parts. I was very similar as coming up as an amateur. I was all legs, and I had to bring my upper body up. But you've done a tremendous job of putting on that upper body muscle to match the legs. Now it's just conditioning. The next 3 weeks, all about whittling it down, bringing it into condition, and the midsection is the key to Carlos. If he can bring that midsection in tight, everything else will follow. And but now that said, much tougher company here. Andrew Jack is back, your buddy. But now you've got, obviously the reigning champ and Sampson. You've got former champ Derek Lunsford. You've got Clarita. You've got Curry, another former Olympian. So I tip my hat, Carlos, for picking this show because this is one of a tough lineup. And if you're going to go to the Lions, brother, bring it to them. Yes,
sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. It's a crazy lineup, and I as someone who's trying to establish their name, I think you couldn't wish for anything more than this. It's a great way to test my mettle, test my worth in this, and being against these guys who I have great respect for. But as I said before, we're all professionals, and I'm a man just like them. I'm putting my pants on the same way. And I'm not shying from any competition, and I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna, come in here as if the story is already written. Of course, you have your front runners, you have your Sampson and you have your Derricks and Andrews, but the story's not over until we step on the stage. And I'm gonna make sure that I'm ready. And as you said, conditioning the tail of the tape for me, and working with my coach. I think that we've really done a good job with it this time around. This guy here has probably been the best prep for myself. And as you mentioned earlier, Tarek, my mental space has been in a great time, has been in a great space. Having the support of my family and my loved ones around me, this prep, it has been just great. It's been awesome. And my training has been the best it's ever been. My dad's in the gym with me every day. We're rocking and rolling. My everything has just been it's so dialed in. I would dare to say this is probably the best prep I've ever had.
Wow.
Carlos, you got some tough love from Chris Cormier and I at Primetime Muscle. I said I'm not giving him any credit until he comes in condition, Chris. I need to see Carlos Thomas Jr. condition. And Chris, who's a close friend to your dad, said, Tarek, I agree. I need to see him condition. We got some of our fans here. Carlos comes in shredded, might shake things up. Do you feel the pressure to come in more conditioned than you were in Texas to deliver on the conditioning department criteria?
I don't feel the pressure. I feel like the plan we've laid out has alleviated all of the pressure and the what ifs in my own mind. So I'm secure in our game plan, and we're executing it. So, I feel as though, as they say, preparation prevents poor performance. And I think we've prepared ourselves very well. So I don't think I feel any pressure right now. Obviously there's expectations, of myself. But with that, it's just natural, you know, as an athlete, I think you have expectations, but as far as pressure, I don't feel any pressure, which obviously lends to this prep being very well, you know, because if you have pressure, that's stress. And I don't really feel any stress right now. You know, I feel very confident in what we're bringing.
This is your pro debut here in
Yes,
Texas. I
sir.
want to give credit to Max Muscle. I got the footage from them. The previous one, this one is from Nick Strength and Power. They're all partners of our channel. But Linda, this is his performance in Texas. Man, I mean, look at those legs. If I had legs like that, I would never wear pants in my life.
So how are you different? What would you say, Carlos? How are you different right now as far as your prep 3 weeks out, looking at what you brought to Texas? What's improved?
Well, what's improved is, you know, I think is one, it's just the mental space that I'm in. You know, I feel as though I'm so just like confident in everything everything we're doing and the plan we've laid out. So with that, you know, where the mind goes, you know, the body will follow. So I think that in itself is the first thing. And then going into Texas and coming from the New York Pro, which I was supposed to, I was going through a lot with my ulcerative colitis, which you guys don't, if you don't know, it is like an autoimmune disorder, inflammatory bowel disease, where, you know, it does put a lot of stress on the body, and obviously prep is a stressor. So going through that was hard. You know, it was a hard time dealing with that, but I would say that we've managed everything correctly this time around. Like I said, my stress is very low, physical stress, mental stress, emotional stress, everything is just so in line that it's made this prep. Obviously, prep is hard, but it's made it so much easier to manage, you know, that condition that I have. So I haven't had any issues with that because that affects the body. You know, that affects my digestion, and if that's thrown off, as they say, your gut is your second brain. If that's thrown off, then everything is thrown off. So I feel like with that being managed, you know, I'm experiencing a lot less water retention. There's a lot less swings in my weight. My weight doesn't change a lot from night to day. So that's all good signs. You know, that's what we've been doing a lot on this prep. We've managed that very well. As far as physical attributes, you know, I think I've continued to furtherly, you know, make sure that my body is balanced, you know, front to back, side to side. I think we brought the back up. My back lat spread has gotten really good. And I think my back double has come up a lot as well. So those are some things that I think that we've done, you know, to, you know, really prepare for this show. And again, that's why I say this probably has been one of the best preps I've ever had.
So how long have you known that you submitted your application, and when did you learn, and how long has the prep been?
So we learned in like around the second week of December, but I started my prep right after the Olympia. So 20 weeks from the Arnold and then 24 weeks from Detroit Pro. My plan was, hey, if we get in, then we're going to go, you know, we're going to accept and we're going to take it. But if not, that's okay. No harm, no foul. That just gives us more time to prep for Detroit. So that was the game plan. So when we got accepted into it, you know, obviously I'm just so happy. I'm so like happy and like, you know, it was a dream come true. And, you know, to be able to stand on the stage with, you know, these guys, it's such a prestigious stage that it is. And, you know, everyone talks about how the Arnold treats the athletes and they love it. And I'm just so happy to be a part of this experience. So yeah, that was the time frame. You know, we started at 20 weeks out from the Arnold, and around the second week of December is when we learned we got in. So yeah, I think we're going to be much better. I think like this right here, we've already surpassed that. So I'm very happy.
Wow. Yeah, that has to be challenging. You know, when I see the athletes and you're waiting for an invitation, and we know how hard, right, Bob, how hard it is to diet. Like, I have to know that I'm going in that competition because I'm going to do a little bit of not really cheat. I mean, in cheating, people think that when we talk about cheating, that it means like, oh, you're going to eat Big Mac. And oh no, we're talking about just having a little extra rice or carbs or extra steak. I mean, how were you able, because we're 3 weeks out. You said it's been a 20-week prep. You find out 2 weeks into December. So how much time were you like waiting, kind of? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah. Honestly, I just had I didn't know if I was going to get in, but I had a feeling. You know what I mean? Like I had a good feeling. I had a really good feeling. So I was I relieved when I got in? Yes, but I just had I had a gut feeling that I was going to get it. I think God gave me this opportunity, and he put it me in the right place for it. So, and he told me that this was going to be a year. So I was like, I just had a feeling that it was going to happen. So I had no reservations about like will I get a refeed, or will I have it was all go from the beginning. It was all go. The gas was down. The pedal was to the metal, and we were ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
Carlos, your father has proven himself to be your best advocate and your worst critic all at the same time. It's got to be a lot of fun having Dad there, and I've gotten to know your father quite well over the last few years. How is it having Dad so involved in your preps and your training and at the competition? I mean, he's right there yelling his heart out. How is it having your father along for the ride?
It's amazing. I'm super blessed. I'm grateful for it because I know many people don't have that opportunity. So I cherish every moment of it. Obviously he's my dad, but he's also like we're like best buds. But he can be very hard. You should see how he has his own HVAC company. You should see how he is on his workers. He runs a tight ship. So I honestly, it's something that he's instilled in me. That hard work. Even when I was younger, seeing him get up early in the morning to go and work job sites. It's something that he's passed down to me. So having him here has been just tremendous, especially with the training. There's no one I trust more to feel safe around when I'm pushing heavy weights and everything. And we've gone old school with this prep, back to basics, dumbbells and barbells. So I'm heavy benching, I'm heavy rowing, it's just worked off in my physique, and I think it's translated to the outcome where I haven't lost a ton of weight, but the look has changed, and it's the first time this has ever happened to me. And I have to attribute that just to like the training style that we've nailed down. It's been a back to basics type of workouts, dumbbells, barbells, we're pushing heavy weights, and obviously like having him there, I couldn't do that without him because there's no one else I would trust to be by my side to spot me when I'm having, 405, or 495 on my back, or I'm benching 405, or, I was benching
your dad's spotting you with all that weight?
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
You better give him some money if you win this show.
I think he gets everything, man. He gets everything.
Oh my!
Did your father compete? Did your father compete?
He did like Olympic lifting when he was younger, yeah. But he was into bodybuilding.
Strongman competition as we speak right now. Spotting with all that weight. I better have you give him a big check if you win this show. Carlos, Samson Dauda didn't have a good back. He had, great front poses, great side poses. But when he turned from the back, his back was not good. Nick Walker said his back is flat as hell. Some of the judges, we were critical of his back. We said, your back is your weak point. The guy got so pissed and mad at the world that he came back at the 2024 Mr. Olympia, and his back was one of the best ones. I think maybe only Derek had a better back than him. Your back at Texas was not good. We need to improve that back. You're not going to beat Derek or Samson if you show up with the back as you did in Texas. What have you done to improve your back? What different back are we going to see from Carlos Thomas Jr.?
I mean, obviously, like I think I have the width and everything, but it's just the thickness and the density. And obviously, that's something they told me right when I got off stage, at the Texas Pro. So, I mean, that's something that we've dedicated, solely, to this prep and preparation was just, working on that density. And, like I said, obviously that took a lot of heavy, rows and barbell rows. We kept that in, but we also kept in some exercises that I connect really well with. a little bit ones that, take a little bit more chest supported, a little bit more squeezing, connecting with the muscle, establishing that connection. Because I come from a background where it's mostly just pushing, football, where you're just pushing forward. So to develop that connection, it took a while. It took a while to get there, but I think we've done it. That's something, like I said, we harped on it all off season and into this prep, is just building that density back there, which I think we've done. And Samson laid out the blueprint. Don't think I'm not looking at his exercise and what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like, success leaves clues, as they say, right? So obviously, like, I'd be a fool not to see and pick up some tips from what the champ is doing. So I've looked at what he's been doing. I've analyzed his workouts, and I can't look at Derek's workouts and be like, what is he doing? Because Derek he's blessed. That's like someone looking at my legs and be like, man, let me look at your leg workouts. I'm gonna get the same legs. You're not. It's a God gift. But if you see someone who brought a body part up like Samson did, you can emulate and look for things that might work for you. So, he's dropped a little crumbs and I picked them up, and I think they've been helping me out as well. So, yeah.
Okay.
Well, Bob, man, your legs, you're like a rhinoceros or something. Look at those legs, man.
No.
Man, I swear to God, if I had legs like that, I would never put a pair of jeans in my life.
You couldn't find a pair of jeans.
I would get
you wouldn't
married.
find them.
I would get married in posing trunks. I would go pick up my daughter with opposing trunks. Look at those legs. Very jealous. Bob, he's got possibly the best legs right now. Okay, let's get down to business. Okay, Samson has great legs and Hadi has great legs, but none of their legs are equal to Carlos Thomas Jr. He's got better legs than Derek. He's got better legs than Nick Walker. He's got better legs than Hunter. He's got better legs than Andrew Jack. He probably is the pro that has best legs right now. His upper body is also massive. If this guy comes in, conditioned, peeled to the bone, and he shows major improvements with his back, can he defeat Derek Lunsford and Samson Dauda?
Well, with all due respect to the president, that would be a very tough task at this point in his career. He's pretty young into the game. He's got one show under his belt. So let's not put the cart before the horse. Those guys have one thing that Carlos doesn't have right now, and that's a little bit more time in the gym and a little bit more muscle maturity. Now, that said, he can contend up there. He can definitely contend for the top 5. Listen, we talk about Samson and Derek, obviously, as 2 Mr. Olympias. You've also got a 212 Olympian twice over in Sean Clarita, and you've got a Brandon Curry, a former Mr. Olympia. So we can't overlook these guys either. Andrew Jack has already beaten him once, and that was at Andrew's absolute best. But Carlos coming in 100%, and he's going to have to focus on 2 things. All the muscles there, okay? He's not going to build any muscle in the next 3 weeks. It's the waistline, getting that as small and as tight as possible, coming in with that sucked in, angry, I'm hungry on stage look, and conditioning. If he nails the conditioning and the waist is nice and tight, I think Carlos is easily in that first call out and he can contend. And then it's just a matter of showing your stuff against the other guys. But ask Carlos yourself, who you beating, big man? Like, do you have your eye on? I mean, obviously everybody wants to win, but how high do you think you can go if you all nailed it 100%? Where is Carlos in this lineup?
Yeah, let's obviously, you got to give respect where the front runner is, and Samson. Obviously, this man is a man on fire. He was already improved from the Olympia to now, and he's the champ for a reason. So like you said, I'm confident, but I'm also realistic, and I pick my shots and I see where I aim up with these guys. I'm very analytical with it. So obviously. Samson's tall. He's super thick and wide now, and it looks like he's on track to bring some of his best conditioning ever. So, obviously, that would be a tall order. But if you're talking stature wise and who I can match up with the best and who I want to match up with the best, and that's respect to the former champ, that's Derek Lunsford. Obviously we're similar in height, and we have certain shots I think will match up very well together. But I think there's a lot of shots that I can take from him. I think honestly, the front double, the front lat spread, the side shots, The back shots, I think he's very, very tough. He's probably top 3 backs all time, you know, considering like his back double. But I think the back lat spread will be very close. And then from there, it's ab and thigh and most muscular. And I think that those are some strong shots for me as well. So top 5 is my goal, but to be up there with the champ and mix and match with Derek Lunsford, I think that will really, really be, you know, something that will, you know, serve some notice and bring some eyes. And obviously getting my little get back on Andrew for beating me. That's something too.
Linda Murray, he said live on television, I'm coming after Derek Lunsford.
Yes, that's what I heard.
Composes.
Yes.
Okay. He said it. It wasn't me. People say, Tarek, you're always trying to create some hostility. But he said, Tarek, I'm coming after Derek Lunsford. I can beat him in some poses. Do you see that, Linda Murray?
You know what I do. I love the fact that you're doing your homework and that you're being honest and you're talking about the poses like these athletes and the fact that you have an opportunity to be in that first call out, be compared to Samson and Derek. Like this is super huge because when I look at the Olympia and I believe how many athletes did we have in open, like 20 open competitors.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more. And I'm not sure with Arnold, maybe does he only have 12?
12.
I think 12. Yeah.
12. Well, right there. I mean, the fact that you have, like you said, 3 Mr. Olympias on that stage, and Sean Clarita, like this is your opportunity to make that impression. And I definitely feel like, you know, Derek, no question, he's right on point with what he's saying. I love Derek. I think Derek has an amazing physique. We know Derek's gonna bring it. We know he's gonna bring it. So, and he's gonna be conditioned. So this is a wonderful opportunity because in the eyes of the judges, this is gonna be your opportunity. And then they start placing you. And that's just the way it works.
Well, I got to say, I think this guy, Carlos Thomas Jr., is a complete freak. I think anytime you are the pro with the best legs in the circuit, you have to be a contender everywhere, right? If Derek had his legs, Derek would be in heaven right now because that's something, you know, and there's not one bodybuilder that wouldn't want to have those legs. Now, like Bob said, he still has a small waist, which makes his quads look even bigger. If this guy comes in with a back in condition, I think he can shock the world. I think he can shock the world. And we're looking at his Texas performance, right? He went against Andrew Jack and Hunter Labrada, both of them vastly more experienced than him. Both of them had already been to the Olympia. And we're talking about the guy who placed 5th at the Olympia and the guy who placed 6th at the Olympia. And that was what, a year or 2 years ago? And he comes in 3rd, right? They called him in on a 3-way call out. I think Carlos Thomas Jr. is a freak. I think he can shock the world. I think he has the genetics. If he comes in condition and he has a back, I think he's one of the scariest bodybuilders to be around. Do you agree with me, Bob? Or am I overhyping the guy?
No, listen, you overhype everything, so we expect that from you, but that's okay. Listen, here's the bottom line, guys. And you know, we have to give respect to the champs, Samson and Derek. They've earned that respect. I know Thomas has a tremendous amount of respect. Carlos has a tremendous amount of respect for those guys. But I'm going to take those guys and put them off to the side for a second. When you say shock the world, okay, I think beating the likes of Akeem, who's been as high as 6th in the Olympia. We haven't even talked about William Bonac. Okay, this is a guy, multiple Arnold Classic champion who should not be glossed over, nor should Brandon Curry, because again, he's got a former Olympia under his belt and still very much in contention. Again, Clarita, we've mentioned. So, you know, you've got, you know, Hollingshead, again, is no slouch. Shocking the world can be beating those guys. If the worst that Carlos came up with is a top 5 finish, which I think is very realistic, But he could be as high as third. Listen, Andrew Jack is very, very good, and he's huge, and he's a big boy. And if he nails it, he can actually contend against those other two Olympians. But Carlos, could put himself in contention with him. If you could take third or fourth and beat those names I just mentioned, that's a real good feather in the cap of going forward. And I think you are doing Detroit, I think you said, Carlos?
Yes, Detroit.
So,
there we go.
So now there you go. You're Linda's backyard. She's missed Detroit.
That's it.
So, but and then you've got, 4 weeks or whatever it is until that show to hone your physique even more, which I think is great because it'll give you some repetitions when it comes to competing on stage. So, shock in the world to me is a top 5 finish.
Yes, and obviously that is the goal. That is the number one goal right there, is to place top 5 and then from there it's going to work and getting compared to these other guys. But that is the goal. There are tons of good champions in this show. Obviously, it's the Arnold Classic. It's invitational only. There's people who won so many shows, as you mentioned before. There's Akeem, there's James. There's Sean, and there's William and Brandon, and there's so many guys up here who are just like great bodybuilders, and they're veterans and they've had a great run in the sport. So to go and place top 5, yes, it wouldn't mean coming ahead of some of these guys, but that's my goal. That's where I'm focused at. Because then from there it's going to work and getting compared to the likes of the Andrews, the Samsons, and the Derek, and then whoever else might be in that top 5 right there.
Well, we have here Olympia Women's Physique champion, Natalia Coelho. Excited to see Carlos on stage. Let's go. Carlos, so ultimately, is ultimately the goal to be at the 2025 Mr. Olympia? We know you're doing the Arnold Classic. Yes. We know you're doing Detroit. But if the qualification doesn't come in these 2 shows, you're already in shape. And a lot of people would be very happy to see you in Pittsburgh. Would you put your head in Pittsburgh, go against some of those guys? It's turning out to be one of the biggest shows of the year. It's the first time we're going to have pro bodybuilding. Is there a chance that Carlos Thomas Jr. might show up at Pittsburgh Pro in May?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm going to make a run for this thing. After Detroit, there is the Arnold South America. There is FIBO as well. And then after those, there is the Pittsburgh, and then New York, and then there's Cal, and there's Legion. There's a slew of shows that I want to be at, and to be at Pittsburgh would almost be a similar situation as the Arnold Classic. There's top guys competing in that show, and to be able to stand next to them would also give me a chance to further my stock and let people know that I'm a bodybuilder here to stay. So there is no limit to this year. I want to compete. I want to have a good time. I want to have fun, and I want to serve some notice and kick some ass for sure.
Serve some notice and kick some ass. I love that.
Carlos hit a vacuum on the front double and hit that side chest peeled. He can beat Derek in both poses. This is going to be exciting. It looks like, Bob, Linda and I are a little bit more optimistic. We think he can really merge into top 3 and top 4. And it looks like you're a bit pessimistic, that you think that he's going to end up in 5th place. So I just want to make that clear, because I don't want you to regret what you say right here. And I know Carlos, he's already pissed off about you being a bit pessimistic about his results at the Arnold.
I'm not pessimistic at all. Carlos already said it. Realistic is the key here. Okay. So, and like I said, you're not beating any slouches here. You're going to beat a former Mr. Olympia. You're going to beat a guy who just beat you in Texas and could be one of the top 3 in the world. You got a 2-time, 212 Olympia champ. These are not normal people. Okay. This is you talk about stacked lineups. Okay. He's throwing right in with the Lions, and I like that about Carlos, because he ain't afraid of nobody. He's going to go out there and he's going to give it his best. Now, he can absolutely qualify for the Olympia this year at some show. This is where sometimes the biggest hurdle to get over is the schedule itself. Okay, so Carlos already has 20 weeks into dieting, right? Now he's got to go another 4 to Detroit. Okay. Then, like you said, there's other shows that are in April, like Brazil, that I'll be at in FIBO. And then you get into May where you got Pittsburgh and New York. The problem is for the athlete is, and this is why I would love to have some discussion with the powers that be down the road for something we could look at in the future, which is to try to consolidate the scheduling where these things are maybe just a week apart or 2 weeks apart, where Carlos could go on a 3 or 4 or 5 show run like the athletes used to do in the old days, going on the circuit after the Olympia. It's unrealistic, once again, to think that you could diet for 30 weeks and maintain any kind of, and then even if you could qualify for the Olympia, the chance of looking good there while you're in your 5th show and you've dieted now for 10 months is 0. So I applaud the effort, but you got to be realistic in that also. And I'm sure Carlos and his team will take a look at that. It also depends on what goes on. If you go in Detroit and let's just say you won and you qualify, great, shut it down and we'll see at the O.
Well, no, I see what you're saying, Bob, but I'm going to respectfully disagree with you.
That's a bad move.
As you often know, you are often wrong and I am often right.
Never.
Last year, I'm just stating facts here and statistics.
All right, sir.
Last year, the Mr. Olympia, Samson Dauda, competed in 4 shows. Arnold Classic Ohio, Arnold Classic UK. He competed in France prior to the Olympia and then the Mr. Olympia. 4 shows.
All right, hang on.
Really close, aren't they?
All right, hang on. Let me respond.
Hold on. This is my time to take you back to school. Then we look at another successful bodybuilder, okay, Martin Fitzwater. Very successful, came onto the scene, looked incredible at the Olympia. He competed in Detroit. He held on his diet, went to New York, which is in May. Then he competed at the Olympia. He placed 4th, which was a tremendous result. And then he went to Prague and broke the heart of all the sea bumsters in the world. So the 2 most successful guys in 2024 were the guys that competed 4 times. If you ask Derek Lunsford, who competed only 1 time and had a disappointing 3rd place, maybe he would tell you, you know what? I should have done another show, test my body. But I'll give you the word so you can apologize to me.
Yeah, let me correct you. You have eyes, but you do not see, my friend. Okay, so if we're looking at the actual data instead of your skewed version of it, okay, Samson did compete in the Arnold and the Arnold UK. Those shows were 2 weeks apart.
Right.
Okay, so it's a grouping of shows in the beginning of the year. Then he shut it down all year until the week before the Olympia, which everybody thought was a mistake, but I didn't. And he went in France as a tune-up to the Olympia. Those shows were 2 weeks apart. So you've got a grouping of shows there. He didn't compete all throughout the season. And Martin pretty much almost did the same thing where he had Detroit and New York, which were a few weeks apart, I guess, last year. Then he shut it all down until the Olympia. What you do post-Olympia is a whole different animal. But what you can't do, or what's very, very difficult to do, is do a complete, prep cycle, 12 weeks, 15 weeks, 20 weeks, whatever it is, to the Arnold. Okay, that means you're dieting in January, February, getting to the show in, November, December, January. All right, you're already in 3 months. Now you got March. Now you got Detroit at the end of the month. That's another 4 weeks. Then you've got the other shows. That's another 4 weeks. And Linda knows where I'm going with this because
I know.
The highest level.
Because I was going to definitely ask Tarek. Tarek, have you ever dieted down before?
I have dieted down 1 time in my life, and then I said to myself, man, I will never eat tilapia and chicken and broccoli again for 3 months. But my question to all of you guys is this. Bob, Chris Cormier and Milo Sarcev, they were some of the guys that competed the most. And they said, Tarek, the problem is that people think that they're going to look perfect every show. And they go, we never assumed that we were going to look perfect in Holland and then go to Germany and look perfect and then go to Prague and then go to Russia and look perfect. We knew that our bodies were going to look different.
Sure.
We knew that there was some variations, but we just loved competing. And we were not hurting ourselves. We liked staying in the diet. And I mean, they were successful doing it, right?
Well, yes and no.
Yeah.
Milos competed 75 times. He won one show. So, I mean, it
Yeah.
depends on your
Yeah.
definition of
And I
success.
think
Number two,
the thing about the European tour too is that like everyone was on it, so they were all
correct.
kind of going through the same thing. So everybody's body was
Right.
changing. So you might have some guys who might cherry pick some shows nowadays who might not do the same run as you,
Well, you're
which
exactly
is
right,
okay.
Carlos. And the other thing was those shows were all right next to each other. You went to Holland and here and there. They were all within days of each other. You went on the tour for 2-3 weeks, whatever it was. Everybody was in the same boat. You're exactly right. They went on these things to make money, they made very good money at that time. And you did the best you can because you're overseas for weeks. So you don't have your setup, your food, your this, your that. And that's just the way it was back then. But whether it's good or bad is questionable. It depends. Like Fitzwater, people forget, took a year off. And he took a full year off away from the stage to make the improvements necessary that when he did come back, he hit it with fire. And he should have won in New York over Nick. No disrespect to Nick. And then he went on to the Olympia and had a great finish there. If he doesn't take that year off, though, to get his physique to that level, we're not having this discussion about Martin Fitzwater being in the top.
No, yeah, you have a point.
So my question would be to Carlos: how did you make the decision as far as your strategy, and you chose Detroit? What went into that?
Well, Detroit was just like the first, show of the year over here. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to start the year off with a bang and hit that show. Obviously outside of the Arnold, but I wanted to, that was going to be the first show I was going to do because it's the first show of the year, and it was going to be a lot of eyes looking at that show because Fuad and the guys put on a pretty awesome production there. So yeah, I wanted to just put my name on the map and jump right into that show. And is there some time between like Pittsburgh and the other ones? There is. However, I feel like I have a very resilient body when it comes to dieting. I don't go flat very easily. It takes a lot to really just drive my body into the ground. So I'm not a guy I think who could fade away very easily when it comes to doing multiple shows. I actually think I get better from in the past when I've done multiple shows as an amateur, the few times that I did do them. So it's just something that you don't know until you don't know. And we're going to figure it out, and I'm going to have a good time doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, I listen, I think everybody reacts differently. And, Carlos, you might do some of these shows and feel great, right? And your body might get even better as you continue to compete. Or, like Bob said, maybe you run out of gas and maybe your physique doesn't respond after 2 or 3 shows. But I think in the beginning of your career, it's worth doing a couple shows in sequence to see how your body reacts. I think that if you do 2 or 3 shows, right? 2 or 3 shows right now, and then you rest for the Olympia, I think you'll be okay. But, Bob, it's a good point that you bring that, you maybe consecutive shows a little bit in the beginning of the year and then consecutive shows close to the Olympia, right?
Well, this worked like a charm for Samson, and everybody questioned him going to France. And I was one of the only people that sat there and said, no. This is genius on his part because Samson has the tendency to come in off in terms of his conditioning. So a tune-up show for him was perfect because it got that skin that little bit thinner, and he was able to just kind of land that plane into the Olympia, and it obviously seemed to work out pretty well for him. But I'm not so sure we're talking about Samson as a current and reigning Mr. Olympia champ if he doesn't do the show in France. So for him, that's what he needs to kind of get that. He could always get to the 90 percentile, which was nice, and he would be a second or a third or a fourth, but he needed to get to the 95 percentile. Carlos is in a very similar position, even in a short career, but, we're jumping ahead. But at 90%, percentile, what I like to call it, Carlos is formidable. He's going to be a contender. He's going to be up there, but he ain't going to win. At 95%, you don't have to be the most ripped guy on stage because you got stuff that they ain't got. You got that sweep, you got that, the proportions, the symmetry, the small weight, you got all that stuff. And they can't get that. They can get ripped. But not everybody's got that beautiful type of physique like you and Samson and some of the other guys like that. But at 90%, you'll be a contender, but you're fighting for the top spots. At 95 percentile, which means he's almost at 100% or close to it. He's got enough conditioning to match all those great attributes. And then he's a contender to win any show he goes in.
And as we have here, T. Bray, Bodybuilding's
Oh, yeah.
paying big bucks right now. Better grab some.
But you know what? Can I say this? I mean, I agree with as far as the money and all that, but I think when you're trying to establish yourself and your brand, this is bodybuilding. It's not who crosses the finish line first. And if I'm new and knowing how things work, it's one thing to be at the Arnold and be there in front of Steve Weinberger and Jim Mannion, right? And then it's another thing to be in Pittsburgh and also do New York. It's just part of the way things kind of work. You know, it's not even, to me, I'm not even looking at it as, and this is me being smart and making my plan. It's not even so much, yeah, it's great to win New York. Yeah, it's great to win Pittsburgh. But to me, it's even better to be on that stage. And I know this from point of view, being a promoter, to be on that stage in Pittsburgh or New York. I'm just saying, I'm not saying don't do Detroit, because I love Detroit. That's my home. I love that you're competing in Detroit. I think that's awesome. But I think as a newbie, you gotta figure out how to, because again, it's not who crosses the finish line first. You have a lot of great physiques on stage. If you're looking at a Derek Lunsford, I'm sure Derek and those guys, he's thinking it differently than you said. He didn't do that last year. So it's just the way it works.
Yeah, well, you know, I think some shows, you know, if you look at the New York Pro last year, Martin Fitzwater, he had a great battle with Guttavito in Detroit. Mm-hmm. But, you know, coming to New York and, you know, we still have fun. Bob thought Martin won. I thought Nick Walker won, you know, and it was a 1-point decision. So it was very close. But I think the New York Pro was the show that everybody really got notice of Martin Fitzwater, right? That was the show that people said, man, if this guy can possibly beat Nick Walker right here in New York, which is one of the most traditional shows, you know, Jim is there, Tyler is there, Big Steve is there. So this guy can go really far. And it turned out to be the truth because he placed 4th at the Mr. Olympia. Now, Fuad and the guys, they do a tremendous job. And I think there's a reason why everybody wants to do Detroit, because those guys are really investing it. They're making it majestic and people want to be part of it. I don't blame them. I would do the same. I would want to be part of it. And I think this year we have an opportunity, you know, I know, and again, it's hard to tell somebody to do something if you're not in their shoes, but if you're a bodybuilder and you're in shape and you've done the Arnold Classic and your body's not tired and you can squeeze in these 3 other shows, I think it would be awesome. I think a lot of them should do, you know, and if you can't do them all, then maybe miss one of them, you know, and just do, you know, New York and Pittsburgh, or Detroit and Pittsburgh, or Detroit and New York. But I think these are a combination of shows that will get people to notice you, right? And I think Carlos is peaking right now. I saw some pictures in the internet, and I know they're just pictures, but the excitement is huge, huge. Now, Carlos, I want to go back to your supplement company. You're sponsored by Darkness, which is part of Integral Medica. Integral Medica is our presenting sponsor of the Mr. Olympia. Those guys from Brazil, they said, hey, they saw something in you before anybody. They said, we want this guy in our company. Talk to us a little bit about your relationship with Darkness and your time going there and working out in Brazil at their training facility, Dark House.
Oh, man. The people of Integral Medica and Darkness are amazing. You know, they graciously welcomed me on. And, you know, obviously, you know, I'm an up-and-coming guy. I hadn't, you know, really established myself yet. But you said they took a chance on me, and, you know, I really do appreciate everything that they've done for me and continue to do for me. And I hope to, you know, make them proud this year, going into the Arnold, Detroit, and then the Olympia and the other shows as well. But man, the people of Brazil, I think I said this before, that's bodybuilding. Like, it is bodybuilding in its core. They love it. They breathe it. They live it. it's an amazing thing to be down there, and you train in a dark house where it's like tailored for the athlete specifically. You know, the pieces of equipment to the kitchen to the recovery aspects in there. You know, having different modalities to make sure that you're top of your game. It's amazing. Training with Marcelo Cruz there, probably one of the best trainers I've ever trained with in my life. And he's amazing. And the way you can see the work that he does with Leandro Paris, like he's going to be doing the Arnold Brazil. He's looking fantastic. That's another athlete of darkness. So everybody be on the watch out for him because he's going to look amazing. He's going to serve some notice. But Cruz does an amazing job there. Donati, he coaches Leandro, but he is like the head manager of the athlete. He does a great job making sure we're all taken care of. It's a wonderful company over there. Like the owner comes in and he hangs out and it's a good time. So yeah, I love being a part of this team. Like it's such a blessing, and I can't wait to go back to Brazil. And spend some good time there.
Yeah, no doubt. And guys, I just want to mention Marcelo Cruz. He's a friend of mine. He is truly one of the great trainers in the world. He in the training center in Brazil is called Dark House. The company Integral Medica is the presenting sponsor of the Mr. Olympia. Guys, if you're ever in Brazil, go to Dark House. Is one of the most amazing places. With no further ado, let's lose some followers. Linda Murray, are you ready?
Yeah, I think so,
ready. I got Carlos Thomas Sr. on the phone right now saying, Tarek, I can't wait to see what Bob says. Linda Murray, are you ready to lose some followers, make some enemies?
Okay, yeah, I think.
Based on the lineup at the Arnold Classic, where will Carlos Thomas Jr. place?
Based on his consistency, I'm going to say you got Samson, you got Derek. I think he's going to place ahead of Andrew Jack.
So you're saying he's going to be third place?
Yes.
Okay. Bob Ciccarello, let's lose some followers. Let's make some enemies.
Always fun.
I love this.
This is a tough one. Like I said, you got three I think he's going to have a very difficult time with, which is Samson, Derek, and Andrew Jack. For obvious reasons, we don't need to beat that to death. The competition is with Bonac, Clarita, and Brandon Curry. To me, he can hang with those guys. It's going to be a dogfight, man. If he could squeak into fifth, I think that would be honestly tremendous. But yeah, I think it's a 5 or 6, somewhere in that range. And again, that's nothing to be, you're going to lose or beat a Mr. Olympia, a 212 Olympia champ. I mean, so that's pretty good company, man. But yeah, I think Carlos is looking in that 5 or 6 range, and then goes from there. And just one quick point on what we were talking about before, where Carlos places in these next shows, especially here in Detroit, will also dictate what he decides to do in the future in terms of competing. Whether it's more throughout the year, whether he's just got to squeeze it down a little bit. These placings will be intricate into, okay, where do we go from here and what do we map out? At some point, it becomes, all right, let's shut it down. Let's make the necessary changes, kind of like what Fitzwater did, and then you come back stronger than ever. If he does exceedingly well or even qualifies, then great. You go to the O and you step on that fantastic Olympia stage for the first time. So your placings will obviously dictate what you do for the rest of the season, Carlos. But I know this, man. You got all the tools that you need, brother, and you got your father, kicking your ass behind you. So I can't wait to see it, bro.
Thank you.
All right, Carlos, you heard it. Linda Murray believes in you. Bob Ciccarello has a lot of doubts against you. And if you place ahead, in more than 5th place, I'll be the first one interviewing you so you can put all your rage against Bob Ciccarello, just like Nick Walker did in New York. But all jokes aside, Carlos, you are an NPC national champion. That is a title that, great champions such as Lee Haney, such as Sean Ray. I was there in 2009. I saw Cedric McMillan become a national champion. What is your word of advice to all the young NPC bodybuilders that, you know, they dream about winning the nationals. They dream about, you know, getting a big sponsorship. They dream about getting invited for the Arnold, fighting for the Olympia. What is your word of advice for all the NPC competitors that look at you as a role model?
Honestly, it has to be, you know, the consistency. You know, when you do this thing, like, you have to, you know, do it 100%, not just for a day, not just for 2 days, not for three, not for a week, not for a month, but you have to do it, you know, every day. And, you know, you have to believe and know that once you give it your all, no matter what the placings or anything says at the end of the day, you know that you gave it your all. You know that no matter who was talented, who was gifted above you or whatever, that doesn't matter. As long as you were consistent and you know, hey, like, I gave it 100% day in and day out, then you can be satisfied with all of the earnings and all of the things that you will be blessed with. So that's what I have to say. You know, like, when I wasn't consistent, I got exactly what I deserved. But when I was very consistent, that's when I saw myself start to elevate, and, you know, the rewards started to come. So, you know, be consistent and remember to just give it your all, and then you'll be satisfied with all your earnings. I promise you.
Carlos Thomas Jr., he is a national champion, third place Texas Pro. The anticipation is huge, humongous to see this guy on stage. Linda Murray believes he's going to place third. Bob Cicherillo thinks he's going to place fifth or sixth. A lot of people believe this guy is the real deal. I want to commend Carlos Thomas Jr. because, man, I think this guy's a superstar. You don't get huge legs like that without consistency, you know, and God bless your father for spotting you. Please take care of your dad. We love your dad.
Yes.
You know, I don't know what you're doing, putting 400 pounds back there and helping your dad and having your dad help you, but tell your dad we said hi. And Carlos, congratulations on a great career. You are a superstar, and we're looking forward to see you at the 2024 Mr. Olympia. My name is Tarek Elgindi with Olympia TV, and next week we are going to bring right here Andrew Jack to respond to Linda Murray, who thinks Carlos Thomas Jr. is going to annihilate him at the Arnold. My name is Tarek Elgindi. We'll see you next time.